Hello guys, nice to meet you all. I recognise a few of your faces, and for those of you that I haven't met before, my name's Matt. I run Boxing Evolution Alternate Provision, so I offer services to schools and to other useful organisations such as youth offending teams. I've been training people in boxing for about 15 years now, and the reason I got into this was I was someone who had ADHD when I was growing up. I struggled a lot in the education system, and after that I got involved in quite a lot of youth kind of criminal justice type stuff. And the reason I offer this service is because through a combination of boxing and mentoring, I was able to kind of change my life around, and I now offer the same system to the young people that I work with. So I've been operating for 3 years now, and I work with the Royal Borough of Windsor and Maynard and also the Slough area. And as I just said, I provide services to schools and to other local authority agencies. The service predominantly works with teenage males, and it includes those who are at risk of exclusion, struggling to engage with education, and those who are at risk that have already offended. And these two aspects are often interlinked. And we do have quite a big problem, just in particular with males, in that we don't have many male role models around, and there is a kind of a problem with fatherlessness as well. So what I'm trying to do is aiming to bring back that positive male influence for the young people that we work with. So the main focus is behavioural change, creating aspirations. So many of the young people that I work with don't have a clue what they want to do in life, where they're going to go, who they are, what they want to be. It's building resilience, and life is tough, and a lot of people don't get very far in life because literally when bad things happen to them, they don't know how to handle it, and then they end up becoming involved with drugs or drinking and all that kind of stuff. And developing emotional intelligence. I think in particular with young men, emotional intelligence is something that's kind of lacking in a lot of them. So by giving them the ability to process their emotions and understand them and handle them in a better way, it helps them so much more. And boxing is a perfect medium through which to do that. So part of what the service offers is boxing, fitness and nutrition coaching. The other aspect of it is mentoring and counselling. So and the last of it is engagement and support with education. So not only have I got the boxing coaching experience, I've also got a lot of experience in the education industry as well. So I've worked in pupil referral units, I've worked in trauma-informed schools, and I've also worked with the Youth Justice Service, so quite a lot for about the past 10 years. The reason I do the boxing, it's the main way that I engage the young people. I build that trust and I build that respect with them, and it's all about building that relationship with them, and it's the main thing, and something that when you're a young boy, fighting is so tied to your kind of self-esteem and your dominance and your status. So it provides the perfect medium through which to engage them and talk about that aspect with them in a way that's safe and constructive. And then once you've built that relationship, that's where the mentoring and the counselling comes in, because once you've got their respect, they will listen to you. And the last of it is basically getting them to engage with their education again, because a large part of it is they're not engaging with their education, and you want to reintegrate them back into engaging with the school and rebuilding that relationship with the school. So you kind of act as an intermediary between them and whoever it is, the teacher they're not getting on with, that kind of stuff. So the programme format, I always start with 6 weeks. That's just a time frame to assess whether they're going to engage with the programme or not. I usually find if I've got them within the first 6 weeks, I've got them for the long term. But if I don't get them going in those first 6 weeks, then it's usually not a lot that I can do to help them. And the programme typically runs for around 3 to 6 months, but it depends on the funding that's available. And it operates via a referral process, and Ryan's already been over the referral. I operate in a very similar fashion as well. And I've already covered the relationship building aspect, but this is the most important thing. And where I see teachers struggling is they just don't have a relationship with the kids. The main thing I always hear from kids is, I don't like the teacher, I hate the teacher, I hate the teacher. And the reason is because that teacher has 30 kids and they're just constantly telling them off. So that relationship breaks down very quickly, and it's a sad thing, but the good thing about working one-to-one is you get to build up a very good relationship with them, and like I said, you can rebuild that relationship with the school. During that first 6 week period, it's also a deeper assessment of the needs. Often I get kids referred to me for a reason, and it turns out there's actually something very different going on during that time period. And I've got at the bottom there, example, attachment issues. One young lad that I work with, he was referred to me and they said, oh, it's because he's involved with gangs, he's involved with crime, etc., etc. And he would be really good with me, and he was a lovely lad. But I noticed something. When I was at his house, his mum would walk in, his personality changed like that, and he would start being horrible to her, he would start abusing her, he'd start throwing things at her. And it actually turned out there was a very strange attachment issue between him and his mum. And part of that was linked to the fact that he'd witnessed his dad abusing his mum when he was younger, and then suddenly that relationship has suddenly formed with him and his mum. And that was what actually the core problem was. So once you start to see deeper into these reasons, you can actually figure out more effective solutions. Once the relationship has been established, the focus can then be shifted to addressing or challenging some of the young person's behaviour. And this is why the relationship building stage is so important, because if you haven't got that strong relationship, if I then challenge him on something that he's doing, then he's going to tell me to F off. Do you know what I mean? So he really has to have good trust in me and good faith that what I'm telling him is in his best interest. This stage will also aim to help young people discover a sense of direction and build aspiration for their future. And I like to talk to kids a lot about entrepreneurship and creativity, because a lot of them are disillusioned with going to work and they think, how can I be someone big? How can I be someone with money? When they look at some of the jobs out there and they think, nah, I'm never going to get anywhere. But I believe entrepreneurship, you know, in particular just being your own boss and having a sense of importance yourself, plays a massive part in that. Part of the reintegration stage is communicating with the school and the strategies and the methods that they could be using to get more effective results with the kids. So by working with the schools and helping them to stick to better strategies for the kids, it helps that kid manage better. And last of all is communicating with the parents and primary caregivers, because they often play a part in it as well. And more often than not, if they haven't got it in line at home, you're going to struggle everywhere else along the system. Last of all is reintegration into education, and I don't know if you lot know about the changes in policy that are coming in with free schools and alternative provision, and it's basically all about how the intervention needs to be short term and the focus needs to be on reintegration. So those of you that are looking to access funding, that's where your focus really needs to be, on how we're going to get the kid back into mainstream school. And part of what I offer a boxing award scheme that links in with GCSEs, and that kind of basically gets them interested in education. It's something that they can do to kind of get recognition that they've done something. And also part of what I do is reframe the need for education. So a lot of kids hate English and they hate maths, and again it ties into the entrepreneurship side of things as well. So I say, listen, you might hate English, but when you run your own business you need to be able to send emails, or you need to be able to do your accounts, so you need maths. So, you know, it reframes why they need to learn, rather than just sitting there learning Shakespeare just because they're told to. So the boxing coaching, it's the primary method of engagement. It's fun, it's motivating, and it's meeting them at their level of need, which is often survival. I don't know how many of you know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but a lot of these kids are operating from a place of survival. It's a primary relationship builder, and it establishes you as the leader, and it gets them used to following your lead and following your instructions. It's a primary development tool. It builds their physical, mental and emotional capabilities. It's their primary method of assessment. It exposes what they need to work on. And an example, when I'm training a kid, like, he might give up really easily, or he might not put that much effort into it. So I get to see on a personality level where he's kind of weak or where he's lacking, and get to talk about it to him. And he knows it as well, because he sees it himself when he's doing the training. And then it links back into education as well, with the ABA Boxing Award Scheme and the ASDAN accredited GCSEs. The mentoring, it provides that one-to-one focused attention, and a lot of these kids are not getting any attention at home, so giving that attention to them just makes so much difference. It gives my lived experience. It provides an opportunity to discuss topics neutrally and without judgment, and without judgment is very important, because they're so used to being judged by school, told that they're naughty, told that they're not good enough. It helps meet their mental health needs, because I also act as a counsellor as well a lot of the time. It helps give the young person a voice and empowers them to make better choices, and it helps them understand themselves and open their mind to a new direction. because a lot of these kids, they've grown up, the only people that they've seen, a lot of them, they've grown up in crime families, all that kind of stuff. The people around them, they're not trying to do anything, so they literally don't have any positive direction at all. And the engagement with education, and this is what I call, this is where the magic happens, and this is the culmination of a strong relationship foundation, and it's helping them take those first steps, as I've mentioned before, reframing, overcoming anxiety and apprehension, helping find ways to cope with learning, so teaching them how to break learning up into small chunks, stress balls, times out, all that kind of stuff. Helping them get up to speed. A lot of the misbehaviour I see is because they simply cannot understand, or they're so far behind their peer group that they just can't manage, so they play up because they feel like they don't, it's their only way of coping in the lesson. Helping them manage in the classroom, so a lot of the time I'll sit in the lesson with them, and if they start to do something, I'm there just to give them a little nudge, just to remind to stay on track. And performing the handover, reintegration. A lot of the time I'll take the kids to the school and I'll help them build that relationship. If they, for example, if they're going to a new school, I'll help them build the relationship, or I'll go back into the school with them and I'll sit down with the teacher that they don't get on with and help build that relationship up again. And just to be successful requires good communication between the school and the mentor. It requires transparency and a willingness to make changes to procedures by the school, and it needs to be brought in as an early intervention. And I'm very big on that point, because I think that once you get to a certain point, it's very hard to bring yourself back, but there's a lot of signs that a kid is going down the wrong path, and if you can get to them early enough, you can change their future direction much more effectively. I've just got a few case studies of some of the people that I've worked with. I know that I'm short for time, so I'll just go over one. And Gary and George, obviously I've changed their name, but I worked with them and I was brought in to help them with their English. Now, Gary, very, very low in his English ability. George was actually incredibly high, but Gary was the cool kid and George was like the follower. I noticed the difference in ability, and what I actually ended up doing was splitting up and working with them individually. And because George, when I was able to work with him one-to-one, and I pointed out to him how good he was at English, he actually smashed his exams. Whereas Gary, because he was so low, he kind of didn't do as well. But the point of the matter was that George didn't get held up by Gary, and I was able to point out to Gary why he needed to work on the English, so further down the line he did start improving. Okay, thank you.